right, our next speaker is Alvaro Botto Barilli, and he can explain to you why he's sometimes rooting for Italy, but mostly rooting for Argentina. He's a performance science analyst for the Houston Astros and a recent graduate of Oglethorpe University. He will be presenting work completed with his teammate Jonathan Hamil, an applied sports scientist at the University of Texas. And his presentation is The Role of Athleticism in Defensive Transition Matchups.
Quick thank you to the conference committee, Skill Corner, and Dr. Hamil as well, and the UT Austin Applied Sports Science Lab. In soccer, some moments last forever. Let me take you guys back to 2022 World Cup final. After an inaccurate pass by France and some quick passes by Argentina, all of a sudden, under the chaos, it's a breakaway transition, and Di Maria is coming up on the left side of the pitch into an iconic goal. This moment is more than just a highlight, though. It encapsulates how many of soccer's iconic moments are kind of surrounded by this phase of play of transition. But in transition, is it about tactics or is it about who can get there first? So just a quick overview. I'm going to be going over the background into how we define why transition is important to look at, as well as defensive transition specifically, some of our methodology, such as our convex hull area analysis, how we defined athletic ability, and then overall our model that we built, finally results of that model, and then probably the most important part, what can we actually apply from this? So a bit of background. Transition is often regarded as one of the most significant phases of play by coaches, footballers, and researchers. In fact, 63% of goals scored in the English Premier League and almost 56% of all goals attempted in a season were attributed to transition play. And to kind of underline this impact of athletic ability, straight sprinting is often the most frequent action in goal situations. However, with the importance of this phase of play and with athletic ability, the relationship between these tactical and physical performance indicators during transition remain unclear. And with that, the purpose of this study is to determine whether team athletic ability influences success in defensive transition matchups in the NWSL. So a bit of our methodology, I looked at 68 games in the 2024 season, spanning 12 teams. And then we used a linear mixed effects regression model evaluating the relationship between these tactical and physical performance. For tactical, we looked at changing convex hull area. We're going to go into it a little bit more now. And for physical, we created this athletic score. So to start off, we defined transition as an inaccurate pass followed by an uninterrupted possession for 6 to 7 seconds. And then we calculated the convex hull at the beginning of transition, that is at the moment of a missed pass, and then at the end of transition, 6 to 7 seconds later. And then we took the difference between convex hull area at the beginning of transition and then at the final. And in essence, what we tried to accomplish here was to quantify team coverage area and the players' pitch organization during transition. So if you look on the graphic on the right, you can see that we took the XY coordinates of all players, excluding the goalkeeper, at the moment that they lose the ball, and then after, when they've already transitioned into defensive formation. For our athletic ability calculation, we created a sum of the high intensity count, which then is the sum of HSR and then the sprint count, added with high acceleration count, which was discrete activity exceeding 3 meters per second, and spanning at least 0.7 seconds long, and then as well explosive acceleration to sprint count. Essentially, through this count then, we had an athletic score for every team in every match, and then we kind of categorized this team's athletic score based on bottom and top 30th percentile into highly athletic, middle athletic, and then low athletic into these buckets. For our model, for the LME model, our dependent variable was the change in convex hull area, followed by our independent variables of athletic category for both defending and opponent team, then the athletic score of the defending team, and then formation. Our random effect was team ID, and then we followed this with an ANOVA to determine the differences between mean convex hull area between the low, medium, high athletic categories. Kind of tackling this question of how do athletic and tactical factors influence CHA. Jumping into kind of our results, right off the bat, we can see that kind of the spread of changing CHA was pretty large overall, going from negative 613 being our minimum value to a maximum of 376. And then going into our model, real quick, we noticed that formation is a significant predictor of CHA. Almost exclusively, all different types of formations were the significant predictors. And athletic ability, instead, on the other hand, is not so insignificant. So going into this a little bit more, we want to look into why is athletic ability not necessarily significant within this model. And we notice throughout each athletic category, the difference in CHA is not that significant. But then when we look at it on a matchup level and we look at low athletic versus highly athletic teams and compare that with low athletic versus other low athletic teams, that's when we start to see significant differences. So to this point, formation versus an opponent's athletic score seems to influence significantly the team's coverage area and pitch organization during transition. To kind of highlight the 4-1-4-1, I wanted to point out kind of that relationship that you see on that blue line of how as your opponent starts to get more athletic, there kind of seems to be this trend with this specific formation that the change in convex hull area becomes more negative. So essentially you're being pushed to tighter formations. Ultimately, some limitations on this was our ability to capture athletic ability. It is something hard to do. We would have liked to use peak acceleration and deceleration as well as peak velocity. And then finally as well, reassessing our transition definition. As you can see, kind of different pitch zones would have different influences or different importance. So future directions would be to evaluate role of fatigue, time of match, and impacts on CHA, as well as connecting CHA and athletic ability to threat metrics such as XG. So essentially what we found out was that low athletic teams are pushed to tighter formations during transition when matched up to highly athletic teams. Essentially that maintaining shape, not relying solely on athleticism is a key factor that should be brought into these tactical insights. And whether it's the Di Maria breakaway transition goal in 2022, ultimately it's not just about how athletic you are, but it's also who you are matched up against. Thank you.